Right friends, welcome back to News Analysis. This is tax avoidance by multinational corporations. And here, before going into this topic, you should understand two keywords. What is multinational corporation? Second one is what is meant by tax avoidance. How is it different from tax evasion? And this is very small but interesting topic. And let us go ahead. And what is meant by multinational corporation? Multinational corporation, all of you are well aware. I will give some examples like Pepsi, like Coca-Cola, like Volkswagen, like BMW, like Siemens. These are all examples of multinational corporations, and the entire operations are managed centrally from one country, and they will have offices, manufacturing facilities, assets in more than one country. And another important convention is the multinational corporations derive at least 1/4 of their revenue from operations outside their home country. That means the corporation at least should have 25% of their total income from other than the home country, right? So here they will have headquarters in one country and have operations in several countries. These are called multinational corporations, and today's topic is how these multinational corporations resort to tax avoidance. What is meant by tax avoidance? Tax avoidance is basically legal if you think technically. It is finding new methods or tools to avoid the payment of tax within the regulatory framework itself. Within the regulatory framework itself, how to minimize the tax liability by taking unfair advantage of the shortcomings in the tax laws. They will look at the loopholes in the tax laws and they will use all the tax laws to their maximum advantage so as to pay minimum tax. It is technically legal, but they will find ways and means to reduce their tax liability. That is tax avoidance. And tax evasion is different. Tax evasion is basically not paying taxes willfully. Willfully disobeying the law of the land is tax evasion, but using the loopholes in the law, minimizing their tax liability is tax avoidance, right? How the multinational corporations are resorting to tax avoidance, that is the topic today. And the issue what we are discussing today is popularly known as base erosion and profit shifting, or you can say tax base erosion and profit shifting. How the multinational corporations are resorting to this, we are going to see in this lecture. And let us assume a situation where some big multinational corporation is in India. Its substantial economic activity is in India, but what that company will do? That company will shift the profits to low tax destinations in one way or the other. The company which has got a substantial share of its economic activities in India, what it will do? It will shift the profits to low tax destinations, popularly known as tax havens. You may ask, what is tax haven? Tax haven is the territory where taxes are levied at very low rates. And those small countries or territories are exclusively for the purpose of attracting multinational corporations with abysmally low tax rates. There will not be any economic activity there, but they will have one office for namesake, and these multinational corporations from big countries like India will shift their profits to these tax havens or low tax destinations. Why do they shift profits? Because in India, if the tax rate is 30%, in these low tax destinations or tax havens, the tax rate is hardly 1% or 2%. So they shift these profits mostly to those low cost destinations. And you may have a doubt, how do these corporations shift these profits? Please look into the slide. These tax havens, examples are Cayman Islands, Bermuda, Luxembourg. Here basically no economic activity. Here the companies will pay less overall tax, as the tax percentage may be 1% or 2%. And if you look at country like India, entire economic activity is situated here, but all these profits or most of these profits are shifted to tax havens in the name of intellectual property rights, patent rights, fees, royalties, documentation charges. In the name of one or the other, they will shift the profits to low tax destinations, and ultimately they will pay substantially lower taxes in countries like India. There also they will pay less tax. Here they are paying less tax because most of these profits are shifted to tax havens. This way, multinational corporations are not paying taxes and they are resorting to tax avoidance by shifting profits from the areas of economic activity to tax havens, right? So, the end result is across the world, total annual loss is around $100 billion to $240 billion in various countries because of this base erosion and profit shifting. And 4% to 10% of the entire corporate tax in the world is lost basically due to base erosion and profit shifting. And another important aspect I am going to discuss in this class, that is the transfer pricing. This is also part of base erosion and profit shifting, but I am dealing it as a special case, this transfer pricing. What is meant by transfer pricing? Transfer pricing is the pricing for goods and services between parent organization and its subsidiaries. Let us take an example, Hyundai car factory. Hyundai car factory is headquartered in Korea. Its subsidiary is in India. Indian subsidiary is manufacturing cars, and Indian subsidiary will sell cars to Korean head office or the parent company, and the price is known as transfer price. The price for the cars which the subsidiary is selling to the parent company is known as transfer pricing, and here also the multinational corporations will resort to several practices and which are basically to avoid the tax. And I have taken one as an example. It is not real, please take this as an example only. Hyundai is manufacturing cars in India and selling to its parent organization in South Korea. Let us assume manufacturing cost in India is rupees 5 lakh. The actual manufacturing cost in India is 5 lakhs. If it sells in India, it is selling at 7 lakhs. If the car company Hyundai is selling the same car in India, it is selling at 7 lakhs. And the same car will fetch rupees 10 lakh in South Korea. The same car will fetch rupees 10 lakh in South Korea. Now, this subsidiary will sell this car to its parent organization in Korea. And technically, this subsidiary has to sell the car to its parent company almost at the same price as they sell in Indian market. That means they have to sell this car to its parent company at rupees 7 lakh only, because the selling price in Indian market is rupees 7 lakh. But they will not do this type of pricing mechanism. They will resort to some other price so as to avoid tax. And let us assume case 1. In case 1, if the tax in Korea is 10% and tax in India is 50%, I have assumed this only for the sake of explanation. If tax in Korea is 10%, if tax in India is 50%, then what this subsidiary will do? It will sell this car to its parent company at 6 lakhs. It will sell this to its parent company at 6 lakhs. That means the subsidiary is earning 1 lakh profit. So it will pay tax on 1 lakh at the rate of 50% in India, that is rupees 50,000. and ultimately the Korean parent company will sell that car at rupees 10 lakh. So, they will pay tax on 4 lakhs of rupees because they are purchasing it at 6 lakh. So, 4 lakhs into 10% is rupees 40,000. So, they reduced the tax liability by manipulating the selling price to 6 lakhs. So, total tax paid in India and South Korea put together is 90,000 rupees. This is when tax in Korea is 10% and tax in India is 50%. Actually, they are supposed to sell this car to its parent company at rupees 7 lakh, but in this particular case, they sold this car to its parent company at 6 lakh. So as to reduce the tax liability, as the tax structure in India is more. Let us assume another case. Hypothetically, let us assume tax in Korea is 50%. Tax in India is just 10%. Then what they will do? They will sell the same car to its parent company at rupees 9 lakh. Initially, the transfer price was 6 lakh. Now it became 9 lakh. By changing this transfer pricing arbitrarily to 9 lakhs of rupees, then they are paying 10% over 4 lakh in India, that is 40,000, and 50% over 1 lakh in South Korea, that is 50,000. Total tax paid is 90,000. So, they have resorted to increasing the transfer price to 9 lakh rupees because the tax structure in India is less, tax structure in Korea is more. Actually, the car company has to sell their car to its parent company at rupees 7 lakh. But in case 1, when the tax structure in India is more, they sold it at 6 lakh. In case 2, when the tax structure in India is less, they sold the car to its parent company at rupees 9 lakh. So now we have seen how they have resorted to changing the transfer price arbitrarily, and hence this mechanism adopted by multinational corporations in the way of transfer pricing arbitrarily is resulting in heavy loss of corporate taxes across the world. So, transfer pricing is basically the price sold by subsidiary to parent company, and here the multinational corporations are using it to their advantage, as we have seen in the case of this Hyundai. And please don't forget, I have taken Hyundai only as an example and only as an hypothetical case. Now OECD, Paris based organization, this is the think tank based in Paris. Now, this has devised an action plan to tackle this base erosion and profit shifting. And please don't forget, this transfer pricing is one of the mechanisms of base erosion and profit shifting, as several countries are losing huge tax revenues. Let us hope some breakthrough in near future. Right friends, with this let us conclude news analysis. Please do join for the modules of economic survey, union budget and railway budget, which we have dealt separately. Right friends, have a nice day. Thank you.